Good evening, everybody. Thanks for hopping on this call to go over the FAFSA. We're going to talk about federal student aid and how to get ready for filling out the application once it opens in December. Right now, all of the news that we're hearing from the federal student aid and the Department of Education is letting us know that it's going to open December 1st. So far, so good. Everything is on track. They do have, like a beta version of it open right now for a handful of people, but they pick those people, they hand pick all of the people who are going to participate in the beta application. And honestly, I think it's better to just wait until December 1st. So I'm hopeful that everything will open with ease this year after last year. And just to like give you all a little bit of a heads up, the redesign of FAFSA is actually really awesome. When what like the launch, the rollout of it last year was the part of it that was so difficult, but the actual application is so much simpler than it used to be. And I filled out the old version of the FAFSA a couple of years ago for my daughter when she was preparing to go to college. And this new form is much simpler. So, I know in the past FAFSA has had, even before the redesign last year, it seemed like a really intimidating form. And they've done a really good job of simplifying it. So just know that you're gonna not only fill it out, but it's gonna be fine. Like it's gonna be totally fine. Um, so just to go ahead and get started, just to make sure that we honor everybody's time. But again, this is definitely a task that you can do. You can totally do this. I'll just dive right in. So the reason why, or not why, but we fill out FAFSA, whether you are going to a trade school, whether you're going to a 2-year college or a 4-year college. It is like pretty much required of all of the institutions. They will often tell you you've got to fill it out. So if there are families on this call who feel like, maybe I don't think we're going to qualify for any federal aid, you still want to do it because you may be surprised that you do qualify for some federal aid. Filling out the FAFSA is also your means of accessing Tennessee Hope scholarship funds. And I know that that line sounds a little bit ambiguous, but that is the Tennessee Hope Scholarship application for those of you who have students who are applying to colleges that are in the state of Tennessee, whether they're public or private. That Hope Scholarship is applicable for your student if they meet the eligibility requirements. Also, all students filled out the Tennessee Promise Scholarship, and filling out the Tennessee Promise Scholarship is like step one to access that scholarship money. And then the next step after that is to complete the FAFSA. So if your student is looking into one of the 2-year programs at a Tennessee Promise Scholarship school, then you're in the right place. So yeah. So this is really something, like I said, unless your student is joining the military or joining immediately going into the workforce, you will fill out FAFSA. And I'm gonna get to the why now. You're gonna find out after filling out this form which grants, which need-based financial aid you qualified for. The grants, just, we've talked about this before, but I just want to give you a little bit more information or a reminder that the grants are not repaid. The loans that you will be presented with potentially in your financial aid offers, those are repaid. And we'll get to that later on. But the other thing that we're curious about is if your student will qualify for work study. And that's tuition credit for hours worked. That's something that I did in college. I worked in the college library archives. And that was a great experience for me to be able to knock a little bit of tuition money off of the bill. And also, once I finished the work that I was doing in the library archives of my college, I could do homework, and that was pretty awesome too. Um, you're going to complete the FAFSA on or after December 1st. Different colleges have different individual deadlines for FAFSA. I feel like I can confidently say, well, not even I feel like, I can confidently say that if you fill out the FAFSA in December or January, you are safe. What I tend to see is that the FAFSA deadlines begin February 1st, sometimes it's March 1st, but usually like those are the two big dates. February 1st or March 1st are usually the FAFSA deadlines. So anytime within the month of December, anytime within the month of January, I recommend filling it out. Um, so sometimes the hardest part about filling it out is making a plan to do it and picking a time, picking a date, picking a time, and picking a time when you are not going to be totally exhausted. Um, and in my house, we have a policy that you don't bring up the really heavy conversations at 8:30 at night because unless it's an emergency, because sometimes that is about the time when students will feel like, okay, I want to talk to my parents about something, but like it's a really difficult time of the day, if you're not, if you're feeling drained. So when I filled out FAFSA for my daughter, we did it I think we did it on a Saturday morning. And it was probably like around 10:30 or 11 in the morning. So we were nice and awake. But I highly recommend like picking a time when you know that it works well for you. I work Monday through Friday, so a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon is a good time to do that. But I know that there are lots of varying work schedules. So you'll definitely want to pick a time with your student, and students pick a time with your parents where you can work on it together. It's really helpful to have a calculator or just use the calculator app on your phone if you have one. And you'll definitely need some paper that you're not going to lose. So if you have like a little notebook or a notepad that is not going to get lost or chewed by the dog, which is the case in my house, set that aside and grab a pen because you're probably going to want to be able to write down the login information, and you're going to get challenge questions because there's lots of layers of security in the federal student aid website, and a PIN number. Like they really, really ramp up the security of your account and all of your information. So having that written down somewhere is really helpful because then when you do log in again later, you can easily access it and you don't have to spend, more time resetting passwords as we do so often. The slide at the bottom says gather necessary information, and I realize that that's really ambiguous. I'm going to get to what that necessary information is a couple of slides ahead. So for parents, oh, look, here it is. This is the slide. Here's some necessary information that's required. Parents, you actually, it says on here at the top, your social security number or your SSN, you actually don't have to provide that. But there will there's a box that says, I'm not providing my social, but that's, that would be what you would choose, say you don't have a social security number. So the rest of us will put in the social security number. If you're not a US citizen, you'll need your A number. And then your federal income tax return from 2023. And I'm going to say that one more time because it's a little bit, it's a little weird and kind of random. You're going to need your federal income tax return from 2023. And the same goes for if you're a parent who receives child support and you received child support in 2023, some sort of record of that is going to be necessary. And then you're going to want to have a current balance of your cash, your savings, and your checking account. And I realize that a lot of this feels like really it can call up feelings, but surely what they're asking you to do by asking for all of this information is compile information that already exists in other platforms. Like it already exists in, your account with the IRS, right? The federal tax and the federal income tax return. Like that information exists there in that platform. If you are a person receiving child support, that exists in another, interface on another platform. And then the same for your bank information. So they're basically just asking you to compile that all in their application for federal student aid. Um, and they're going to put it in their platform so that they can determine, what you're eligible for. So these requirements on here. Oh, I didn't, let me also add the one that some families may have investments, or own a business or own a farm. That if that is the case, you'll want to have some sort of record of the net worth of that, and then any records of untaxed income that your family may have. So all of this information can call up a lot of feelings for everybody, varying feelings. Some families appreciate taking a moment to take an inventory, um, and feel like better informed about where you are and where you've been in 2023. And then other families may feel like this is an invasion of your privacy. And all of those feelings are totally valid. I encourage you, as you're working through these steps and gathering that information, I encourage you to be curious about why those feelings are coming up. Again, they are asking for all of this information that already exists in varying places and spaces. However, they just want it all in their database so that they can calculate a number for your financial aid offers. So parents, these are the things that you're gonna want to gather together. Now, I'll go ahead and say this too. Not every family may have filed a tax return in 2023. Um, I know for myself, in like a couple of years ago when I was filling out FAFSA for my daughter, we had not filed our taxes and we had an extension because my dad was in hospice during that tax season. And we just were really attentive to that situation. And we thought, deal with our taxes later. So if it is the case for you that your family did not file taxes in 2023, or you haven't got an extension on those taxes, totally fine. That is something that you're going to want to make a priority in the next month or so, if you're able to. And that is because you like they're just really strict on that requirement. And I'll talk a little bit about like unique situations further on as we keep moving. Okay, so students in the room and parents too, but students in the room. The way this is going to work is that you are going to basically take two steps. It's a two-step process, okay? The first step is to create your FSA ID. And that is something that you could actually do now in preparation for the FAFSA application opening in December. Now, completing the actual application is your step two. So again, two steps. First one is create the FSA ID. Second one is to complete the application. The FSA ID you could make today if you would like to. You're going to create the FSA ID using a personal email address. And you're also going to complete the FAFSA first. And when I say first, I mean before your parent. You're going to want to do it first. I don't believe that there is a hard and fast rule about that, but I remember that last year, um, there were not so many hiccups when the student completed their application first, and then the parent was able to complete their application. So when you create your FSA ID, step one, there are a lot of levels of account security. You're going to be verifying your account by text message. You're going to be verifying it by email. You're going to get a PIN number. You're going to have a bajillion challenge questions, which is why you're going to have paper and a pen handy so that way you can write all of that down, because they will ask those questions. And that way it makes it so that when you return to your FSA account and log in, a month or two from now, it's easier to log in because you have all of that information. So parents, and I'll talk about like varying scenarios of parents. But for now, parents are known as contributors. And contributors, just to clarify, means that you are contributing information as a parent. Okay. It does not mean that you are signing up to contribute a specific amount of money to your child's potential college education. It just means that you're contributing to this application. So parents are called contributors, and there's a little bit there are some very specific names of roles that I'll get to depending on different family landscapes. So parent one, we'll say we have parent one. You're going to, after your student actually at any point, including today, you can create your FSA account, your FSA ID, and go through all of those verification steps. But you'll want to wait until your student fills out the FAFSA in December and submits it for you to fill out your FAFSA and submit it. This part is kind of weird because there's parent one and parent two, and truly parent two is not required to provide any information. I mean, they are required to create an account, but they don't have to fill out the FAFSA form. Only one parent does. And again, there are varying landscapes when it comes to different families. My daughter, when we filled it out for her, she had me as mom, and then her biological dad we're divorced from, and I'm remarried, and she has a stepdad, and she lives with us most of the time. And so there are all of these different conditions that I'll talk about in the slides to come so that you can kind of know where you fit. So that way you know what to expect and who is actually filling it out. Okay, so next on here. Okay, students, when you fill out the actual FAFSA, after you've created your account, when you're filling out all of the information, you need to plan to be in the same room with your parent when you complete your FAFSA. There are times when there are tasks in front of us and we think, oh, I don't need to do it. Or maybe I could just send my parent a text if I have a question. I'll go ahead and get this done on my own. Don't do it. Please don't do that. Please be in the same room with your parent when you complete your FAFSA. Like I said, this form, this application has a reputation for being really complicated. It is simplified, right? After the big Simplification Act and the big redesign last year. However, there is still often a feeling when you're filling it out that you're doing it wrong. And you're probably not, but it's better to be in the same room with your parents so that you can look at it together and say, and try to figure out like, what does this mean? What does this question mean? And should I move forward or should I pause and do a little research? Let's do this research together on what this means. So again, plan to be in the room with your parent, not just, texting one another, from, if you're at school or somewhere else, like really truly try to be in the same room. And then the other thing to know, students, is that you're going to provide some information. You're going to provide, your basic information and then your parent contributors information. And then you'll answer some questions about whether or not you filed taxes in 2023, which I bet most of our students have not. Historically, our students have not filed taxes of their own. But that's not totally out of the realm of possibility. So you'll get asked questions like that. And then you'll have the chance to add in the specific colleges that you would like your information, your financial aid information sent to. And you can add in up to 20. It's totally free. You don't have to, again, free application for federal student aid. You don't have to pay each time you send your information to the colleges, which is really nice because that's what we're out to do, is keep it cheap. So just know that, again, be in the same room with parents, and then enter in as the colleges that you would like your information sent to, so that way they can receive your information, cook up a financial aid offer, and then return it to you. All right, parents in the room. Along with, I talk a little bit about the information that you would need to gather, your tax return from 2023, your balances from bank accounts. But I want to make sure that you all know that you are not going to include retirement accounts or any equity in real estate in your assets. And that's something that's brand new this year. I'm so thankful that I learned that recently when I went to the college counselors conference in California in September. That was new information, was that we are not including retirement accounts. We are definitely not including any equity that you have in real estate into that number of assets. If you are a family that has a 529, 529 account, which is for your students' college education, it's a savings account, that is going to be considered a savings account. But even if it has the student's name like designated on it, it's not considered a student asset. It's considered a parent's asset. So just make sure that, because technically it is at this point, but just make sure that you do include that in the assets, if that is the case, if you do have one of those 529 accounts. And the really nice thing, last thing on this page, the really nice thing about FAFSA, and I can speak from experience, is that if you fill out the form and you submit it, and there's a weird error or a discrepancy on there anywhere, they will notify you pretty quickly. And they'll specifically say, hey, this needs your attention. Can you make this correction and then resubmit? I did that. This was before the redesign. I did that and I filled out the form online, and it was really nice that, I think I filled it out on a Saturday, and a week later, I got a letter in the mail that said, hey, you need to make this adjustment. And they actually, in the mail, sent the piece of paper. I don't know if since the redesign, they will send the piece of paper that lets you amend it. And then I think the postage was paid, and I just went and remailed it. So no big deal. Everything worked out. So like I said before, filling out this form, you can feel like, oh my gosh, am I doing this right? It's asking me all of these questions and I don't understand why and what are, I hope that I'm doing this right. That's okay. Like, you probably are doing it right. And if you're not, they're going to let you know. It's not, set in stone once you send it in. Okay. So this is a lot that's on the screen right now, but I want to direct your attention to the curvy road sign, because families often want to know what is next after you submit your FAFSA application, right? The road is a little curvy. And what do? when we're on a curvy road where it might be a little bit hazardous, we slow down, we're attentive, we're intentional. So just know that once the FAFSA is submitted, it gets a little bit curvy, totally doable, totally doable. You're not going to drive off the side of the mountain. You're going to slow down and take caution and take your time through these curves. So students, once your FAFSA is submitted, you're going to maybe, at the beginning of every week, log into your FSA account and check the status. It will tell you where it is in the whole process. So that's really nice that it updates. You're also going to check in those college admissions portals for the schools that you are applying to find out if the college has received your financial aid information and maybe even already generated an offer to you. So those timelines can vary. It depends on when you're applying to the schools. It depends on their own deadlines. So that's just something that you'll want to do maybe once a week, like at the top of every week. Again, you're eventually going to receive an offer in that college admissions portal. So say you apply to University of Memphis, you're going to go to your Tiger Tracks account, you're going to log in, and it's going to tell you, okay, here is the breakdown of what scholarship money you're going to get. And Tennessee Hope Scholarship will be on there for students who are eligible. There's a test score and GPA requirement. But you'll see it on the financial aid offer. And then what I recommend doing is looking at it with your parents and then seeing if it aligns with the numbers that you all have looked at on each college's net price calculator. We've talked about that before, about hopping on the school's website, or even you can actually just Google University of Memphis net price calculator. And you can use a calculator tool to get an estimate of the cost. It will probably, depending on the calculator, it may or may not include the scholarship money from Hope Scholarship or the other grants that you would receive. But you just want to make sure that there's not like anything crazy, not any like huge surprise that makes no sense. Because sometimes that does happen, and it's just good to make sure that those are aligned or close. And then after that, you'll want to enter the details of your financial aid offer into SchoolLinks, because SchoolLinks has an incredible financial aid comparison tool for all of the colleges that you're applying to. Right now, if you logged in, you could go to the financial aid part, and you would see that your colleges are listed there with their price tags on them that look like astronomically huge and intimidating right now. But that's because we haven't filled out FAFSA. We don't have that information yet. So once you have it, you'll enter it into SchoolLinks, and then it's really helpful to be able to figure out what feels like the most practical in terms of cost. So parents, again, you're going to look at it at the financial aid offers once they come in, and I'm estimating like January seems reasonable to see those. And then you actually have the opportunity to negotiate with the financial aid offices at your child's colleges. You can make an appeal, and people make appeals for all different reasons. Say, for example, maybe the year of 2023 was a really like financially stable year for your family, right? And, maybe it was last January that someone's job situation changed, and someone in the household, maybe like, you or your partner experience like a loss in income. And there's that fear of like, oh gosh, if I send my information from 2023 to the FAFSA, they're going to think I make all of this money and then we're not going to qualify for anything. And you can make an appeal. And when you make the appeal, you don't make the appeal with the FAFSA application, like with the federal student aid website. You actually make it with the financial aid office at the college. And so that means that you would reach out to them, and depending on the reason why you're making the appeal, you can, like you'll start a conversation with them about that. And again, sometimes you make appeals because of the cost of the school and your own changing financial situation. Some families have made appeal in the past because maybe there was like somehow there was like some information missed in the application. Maybe the student didn't talk up this incredible project that they did that was worthy of attention and worthy of like that conversation around around the dollar amount. And there was even a family last year who somehow just between some information got, it was actually, there were several reasons why, but one of the things that came up was that there was a student who was the child of an alumni of that school, and those dots were never connected for the admissions team, even though that's something that is seen in a student's application. Like somebody just missed it. So like I said, all kinds of reasons, but just know that that is an option, and that would be something that you would explore like end of January, and then in February those negotiations can happen, and we'll talk about that more as the year goes on and what that can look like and some steps for figuring all of that out. So I want to go back. Well, I'm not going to go back. I'm just going to give you, well, yeah, I am going to go back. There is on the FAFSA website, like on the federal aid website, they have so many resources, and it's actually, like I said, the redesign has been great because it has really fantastic, just generally really fantastic redesign in terms of like simplifying things. One of the things that changed in the simplification is for families who have maybe two students who are in college now. They used to consider that when they were doing the financial aid offer, but now they're not considering it that, and that's another reason to appeal as well. Like when you fill out the FAFSA, they're not interested in the fact that you have one or two siblings, that your student has one or two siblings in college at the same time. So you do have the opportunity when you appeal to say like, hey, we're stretched thin. And that's totally fair. But one of the other things that they have on the website that's really helpful in terms of like, when I was talking before about the parent and the contributor and figuring out like who is filling this out as the contributor, I can share with you that if you are a parent who is the biological, well, I'm going to actually put this on the screen. Sorry. This is going to work. I hope. There it is. Is that it? Can we see it? I'm hopeful. Hang on. Okay. So you should be able to see, yes, you can. This infographic on the screen, the text is tiny, and I know, but don't worry because I'm going to send you a link to this so that you can take a closer look at it. Like I said, landscapes of families look really different. If you are the student, say like mom and dad are married, they're married to each other and they file taxes jointly. It's got like a wonderful flow chart that's super handy in terms of figuring out what to do, how to do this. And then if it is the case that like the students, like the parent and the students, parent, the student, the parent, and then the parent's biological parent, like biological parents all live together but are not married. It's like, okay, this is how you're going to do it. Ultimately, like if you are a family where the parents are divorced, whether you're remarried or not, the parent who provides the most financial support for the student is the parent who is filling it out. I'm going to say that one more time. If you're in a family where parents are divorced, the parent who provides the most financial support for the student is going to be the parent filling it out, whether they are remarried or single. That is the parent who is filling it out. There are lots and lots of misconceptions about that. Sometimes people think, well, I claim them on the taxes, or they live with me more. So it is whomever is providing the most financial support. Sometimes the parent providing most financial support lives out of state. Um, let's talk if that's the case for you. Sometimes the parent who provides the most financial support is single, like I said, and there is a path for everyone. So just know that you're going to have access to, I'll make sure that you get these links. And of course, like this information is available online, but I'll make sure that you have like a shortcut to it, just so that you can figure out like, well, what if I remarried? What does that mean? And the child spends most of their time with me. Um, this all of the information that they have and the infographics that they have on their website are really, really helpful. So I'll make sure that you all have those details as we move through this. Okay. I'm gonna switch the share back to this friend. Sorry, thank you. And I want to let y'all know that there are a lot of common questions that come up, right? There's this question of like, for the student, am I considered a dependent or independent? There's a series of questions that students will answer. I feel like the majority of our students will be dependents. There may be one or two every year that are independent. It will be very clear. But those often are the questions that are confusing to the student. They're like, why are they asking me if am a veteran? I'm 17 years old. Well, there's some people filling out FAFSA who are veterans. And we have to establish, like I said, whether or not they're a dependent or an independent. And then we've got is my parent a contributor? Yes, your parent is a contributor. That does not mean that they are contributing money per se. It means that they're contributing information. And then, what if my parents aren't U.S. citizens? A social security number and parents being having citizenship is not a requirement for you to qualify for federal aid. So just know that that's not a concern. Again, parents didn't file taxes in 2023. Try to make it a priority, along with all the other things that everybody's got on their plates, but really try to make it a priority, because the sooner you all can get that done and not feel like, oh my gosh, I have this thing that I've got to do, and have that off of your plate, it's going to be a relief. And I talked a moment ago about due to the job change, my parents' 2023 tax return does not reflect their current income. That's okay. You can appeal. You can totally appeal. Okay. We got one more slide with some, this is my wild card slide, which is really just important information that is somewhat confusing. And it has to do with dates. Okay. The thing that all of these three of these items on the screen have in common are funky dates. Okay. So the application opens in December 1st, 2024. Okay. This upcoming December, a few weeks away. You are completing the FAFSA application that is labeled 2025, 2026. Okay. Again, opens December 1st, 2024, but you're completing the 2025, 2026 FAFSA form. When you get into the website, you're going to see a 2024, 2025 FAFSA application. Don't do it. Don't do it. You don't ruin anything by doing it, but you're going to have to do it all over again using the 2025, 2026 application. And then just to like throw in another year to make it a little more confusing, you are using tax return information from 2023. So we've got a good 4 years represented here. Like one in the past, couple in the future, and then our present. So just maybe even like take a picture or a screenshot of that, just so that way you can have a little anchor as you move forward and fill out this form because it can be really confusing keeping up with all of these years. All right. That's my wild card slide. Okay, it is 6:09 and I want to try to make sure that I make time for questions. I've got questions. It looks like in the chat that I'm going to address. And then also, if you have a phone and you're watching this on a different device, you could scan that QR code. But again, I'm going to send it to you. The Federal Student Aid, the Department of Education has a fabulous Federal Student Aid YouTube channel with tons of videos that offer clarification on any and everything. So I really encourage you to lean into that resource. And also, you can go on the Federal Student Aid, the studentaid.gov website and read about how all of these different things work to try to figure out, like, okay, what applies to me? What categories am I in? And what information do I need to be able to provide? Okay, so I see. Oh, I see that, Chris, you asked about retirement accounts. We're not going to put retirement accounts in the like assets category for parents. You actually don't. So I hope that that answer that questions. Okay, how does it work for more tech? You're still going to fill out FAFSA. Yes, this is an excellent question. Like I said at the very beginning of the meeting, this is for trade school, this is for community college, 2-year schools, 4-year schools. It's for everybody. So you're still going to fill out the FAFSA, like you're going to create your FSA ID, fill out the FAFSA, and then when it is time to add in the colleges that you want to send your information to, you're going to add in William Moore Tech. I always joke about how that's the name its grandmother gave it, its proper name. You're going to put in William Moore Tech, and the FAFSA will send your financial information to More Tech to be able to complete that step in the process. And also, your Tennessee Promise is going to pay for More Tech. So the next step in Tennessee Promise also is to do the FAFSA. So awesome. I'm so glad that you're here and asking that question. Okay. Dale Childress says, do both student and parent each need an FSA ID or is it a single account for the family? Great question, because you're each going to have your own ID. You're going to have your own, your own ID. The student is going to have their own. The parent is going to have their own. Like I said, it's great to be in the same room together while you're working on it. I recommend maybe doing it one at a time, just because if you both run into questions or, one of you is focused and the other one says like, I don't understand this, what this is, and, it's a lot. So be in the same room, but maybe like your student does their FAFSA first and then parent, you do yours second. It's just nice to have other people around so that when these questions that some of them are worded very oddly come up, you can read them aloud and make sense of them together. Okay, so question, do trust funds or conservatorship accounts count as a student's asset? That's a good question. I hesitate to I think that I need to make sure that I am saying this right. So don't quote me on this yet, but I'd love to follow up with you about this because I feel like if the accounts have only the student's name on it exclusively, then it would be considered a student asset. However, if there is another adult's name on it as like a co-owner of the account or like a conservatorship or guardianship, all of that, that would be considered the parent, especially if the student's under 18. But let me do a little bit of homework on that and confirm, because I just want to make sure that I'm not telling you the wrong thing. And the nice thing is that we can't fill this out until December 1st. But it is good to be thinking about things like that because, like I said, everybody's situation is so different. And, we want to make sure that we're looking for the opportunities to get you guys the most money possible, so that we can move forward. All right. Any more questions? Oh, Camden, I see your question. I'm going to email you a response on that one because it's an application question that is not a FAFSA question. But yeah, um I'm going to shut up. If y'all want to unmute yourselves and ask questions, you're welcome to, or if you want to put them in the chat, it's open.
I actually have a quick question.
Great.
So I'm a University of Tennessee employee, and Charles is going to be able to take into account some of my tuition benefits. Does that come into play with FAFSA?
So FAFSA is the next step, but it is likely that once you receive the financial aid offer, it's going to have an extra line in the offer that states whatever the discount is or
Okay,
whatever the cost is. And if you don't see that extra line in the offer, we can just, like you can just give the financial aid office a call and say, hey, we're missing this one piece of the financial aid offer, and I'm just curious, how we go about doing that. And truly, like, the financial aid offices, like, they want to help. Like, they really want to help. I know that there are a couple of parents in the room tonight who, for them, this is not their first rodeo, and they have dealt with appeals and financial aid offers. And, I'll ask and see, if they're willing to talk about that, but at some point with parents. But I think that, like those financial aid offices, I always tell students, once we reach this point in the year, I'm like, you are going to go, once you get to college, you're going to go into that office and introduce yourself and stop in regularly just to say hi, and really know the folks in there. They really do want to help. They want to make it happen. So having that line of communication with them is really important.
that's good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Going once, going twice. Um, I am so grateful to hop on here with you. I cannot believe that it's only 6:17 because FAFSA is dense. It's a lot. But be on the lookout for some links and some resources. And if you hopped on late, there's a video. But yeah, I really appreciate you all taking the time to listen to this. And this is just the beginning, like we're gonna keep talking about this, but this is how you can prepare for the next steps in this process. And I don't think that there is another Zoom on the calendar for December right now. But I'm going to stay in touch with you all and find out if that's something that you would like to have, because I know that December is really busy for parents, and I don't want, or for everybody, for families, and I don't want to place like any extra pressure on you if you don't have any like immediate questions that you feel like can wait until January. So we'll fill that out. But yeah, thank you so much for hopping on here tonight, and be well and be safe, and go forth, do all the great things, students here in the
Thank
room.
you.
Yeah, and parents too. And I'll make sure all the information is available very soon. Thank you again.